The OnePlus 8 seems like a nice cheaper alternative to the 8 Pro at first, but at $699 it really isn't that great of a value. But what if you could get basically that same experience for €100 less? Meet the Moto Edge. Design. It seems like all smartphones these days are starting to look the same, and with the same I mean more than was already the case. Glass sandwich? Check. Bezel-less screen with curved edges? Check. Hole punch in the top left corner? Check. But it's a nice design and I'm not going to complain. The back attracts a lot of dust and fingerprints though, matte glass would have been highly appreciated here. Because of the very dramatically curved sides, there's almost no frame on the sides. The top and bottom of the phone are completely flat, which means that it can stand on a table, which is really only useful to look cool in videos. Build quality is good, except for the buttons, which seems to be a common Motorola thing. They are pretty loose and mushy, I'm not a big fan of that. Fortunately, Motorola finally included a higher quality vibration motor than in their other phones. This has been a weak point before and it adds a lot to the premium feel of a phone. It's also worth noting that the phone is extremely tall and narrow, which might make it hard to fit it in some pockets, but also makes it easier to use in one hand. It does have a water repellent coating, but is not IP certified. Display. As I hinted at before, the edges of the 6.7-inch screen are curved a lot. Almost 90 degrees, which I'm not that big of a fan of. It leads to extreme distortion on the sides of the screen, especially with white content, and that just doesn't look good. Fortunately, you can reduce the amount the screen goes over the edges by double tapping on the side. I basically use this phone like that all the time, because thanks to the OLED screen you don't even notice that there's more screen on the sides that is now black. And fortunately the touch rejection on the edges is very good, so you can hold the phone normally without unwanted inputs. Apart from the distortion on the edges, the screen quality is very good. Sharp 1080p resolution, vibrant colors, perfect blacks. The lowest brightness setting could just be a bit dimmer. And thankfully it also has a 90Hz refresh rate to make scrolling much smoother and the UI just much more fluid as a whole. I think this feature adds much more than just putting in a faster SoC. And adding to the media experience is the audio through the very high quality stereo speakers, and if you don't want to use those, a headphone jack. Performance. The SoC is a good segue because this phone doesn't have the latest and greatest Snapdragon 865, but I actually think the Snapdragon 765 is a smart move. Combined with the 90Hz screen and paired with 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, it's more than capable of keeping the phone running smoothly. I never experienced any stutters or hiccups. Apps load fast and stay in RAM long enough. Unless you play a lot of games, you really don't need the 865. The 90Hz refresh rate is much more important for an experience that feels fast. Not adding to that is the fingerprint sensor, which isn't the fastest but gets the job done. The same goes for the included face unlock, which is also not as instant as on OnePlus. And of course the Moto Edge does have 5G, but only sub 6 GHz, not millimeter wave. Not that you really need 5G at this point, but it might be nice to have for the future. Software. Motorola's Android skin is along the best around. Stock Android 10, but with some handy additions baked in. Chopping to turn on the flashlight and twisting to get to the camera, Moto Display to get notifications, and as mentioned before, a smart solution to turning off the edges if you don't want them. They do serve as a handy notification light though. Camera. The camera system is about what you would expect. This means that it's good, but not groundbreaking. I think the best reference is the last generation of OnePlus cameras, so similar to the OnePlus 7T or 8. You get a main 64MP sensor with pixel binning, a 16MP wide angle, and an 8MP 2x telephoto. To have both a zoom and a wide angle available is nice, and in good light the photos come out detailed, well lit and sharp. That goes for all three cameras. Colors are a bit warm though, and when shooting into the direction the sun comes from, dynamic range really suffers. More challenging conditions are just where something like an iPhone or a Pixel really pulls ahead. This also goes for low light, where it loses a ton of shadow detail, and the night mode is also nothing special, better than nothing at best. Selfies are also very detailed and well lit though, and with nice bokeh to go along with that. I'm not a big fan of the over-sharpening in the viewfinder though. Video quality can be summed up with the same words as the rest of the camera. Good, but not flagship level. Battery. Battery life is a real strong point of this phone, which given the 90Hz screen honestly surprised me a bit. Without using 5G, it's almost as good as the Moto G8 Power I reviewed recently, even though this phone has a much more power-hungry screen and a smaller battery. I got about 8 to 9 hours of screen on time, which means that it's basically impossible to kill this phone in a day, and even 2 days shouldn't really be a problem. I don't take a lot of calls and don't play games on my phone though. But these numbers make me very confident that even if you use 5G, this battery should not let you down. I do however have to give it a knock when it comes to charging. With 18 watts, it just takes way too long to charge the 4500 mAh battery, close to 2 hours, which is not acceptable in 2020. There's also no wireless charging, but I can accept that given the price. Conclusion. I'm overall a pretty big fan of the Moto Edge. I think the strategy of putting an upper mid-range chip in a phone with otherwise upper-class hardware really makes a lot of sense, given that the Snapdragon 865 is just extremely expensive. And if the rumors are to be believed, we're going to see a lot more phones like this in the future, like the Pixel 5 for example. This phone slots in very neatly between the OnePlus 7T and the OnePlus 8, with the same smooth 90Hz screen, similar camera performance, but excellent battery life. If you want 5G now because you plan on keeping the phone for longer, the Moto Edge seems like the much more sensible option. I'm going to compare it directly to the OnePlus 8 in another video though. Thanks to Motorola for the Moto Edge, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you know which buttons to press, don't forget to press that follow button on Twitter, and don't forget to stay home and stay healthy. I'm Brian, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.